All right. What is up, everybody? Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. This is John Marks. Got to come up with a name for the show. I was thinking John Marks the Spot, maybe, or something like that. But we're live on YouTube here at 1 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. And normally I make the guest wait in the back room for a minute or two as I start out, or I give like my intro, but there's no making this guy wait.
No, go ahead, man.
His name's Harry Mays. He's went from being a prolific broadcaster to one of the area's biggest podcasters. What's up, Harry?
How you doing, Johnny? I'll tell you, I like that John Marks the Spot. I see what you did there.
See that?
I like that.
Yeah, I may go with it. It's catchy.
Yeah. Just don't go getting one of these stupid green screens like Shander convinced me to buy a few years ago.
I actually bought one.
Oh, you do have one?
Well, Amazon's delivering it, or it delivered it, and I just didn't take it out yet.
Yeah, that's where I got it.
Do I not need it?
Well, it's a pain in the ass, if you ask me, because you can't, like, we're doing StreamYard right now. If we were doing Zoom, it's a little different because I don't know what the difference is between the two modalities, but with StreamYard, if I wear something that matches the green screen, like in other words, I can't wear a green shirt or anything that resembles green, like Eagle Green. I can't wear an Eagle shirt. Yeah, because it'll go right into the green screen. I freaking hate it. And now you can see my hat's pixelating. It's all fucked up.
Yeah, I hate the pixelating.
I know.
Which is why I was trying to find a background. I'm so ill-equipped to do this, Harry. I was hoping I could just ride the radio wave out and I could just retire and not have to deal with any of this shit.
Right.
But unfortunately, now I have to. Like, look, I'm in my basement. I have my staircase right there. I can't get the camera angle correct.
Yeah, you got to get a piece of art or something on the wall behind you at least.
All right, so listen, I've been trying to set it up down here. Mm-hmm. My wife has pneumonia now, so and my daughter she's all right. My daughter has strep. My little girl has strep. So it's like we had ear infections last week. 2 of the 3 had ear infections. Now we got a strep this week.
Oh my God.
She's got pneumonia, bacterial pneumonia. So I'm trying to take care of her. I put the baby down for a nap so I can try to come on and jump on and do this with you. So I was going to try to set something up with some bobbleheads or, like some art, but I never seem to have time to do it.
Like a cardboard cutout stand-up of like Joe Paterno or something behind. Remember we had that at the studio a long time ago?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, who doesn't want to did we have Sandusky too? Or just
yes,
Joe
of course.
I don't know if we had the Jerry Sandusky one.
Oh,
but anyway, man. All right. Well, a lot of people tuning in. Harry was, and we'll get to the issues coming up here. So there's a lot of things to talk about. But Harry, once upon a time, was a part of. I mean, obviously, Mike Missanelli had the most successful show in Fanatic history, but I would say that Harry and Tony Bruno, the Bruno and Mays show, during its. How many times did you actually have the Bruno and Mays show?
There were a couple different incarnations. It started, I think, somewhere around 2009, back when were we still on the AM then? Or did we just flip to FM? I forget. It's been so long. But then it went away and then it came back and then we both went away and then we came back on Sirius XM and then Tony made sure that we went away about 5-6 months later.
I replaced you at one point for a year, and then they said, yeah, we better just put Harry back on there. This isn't working either.
Well, that's when I went to the Mays to Midnight show.
Mays to Midnight. But to my original point, it was when I think of the good times we had at the Fanatic, and I don't know if you and Tony were on 950. I don't think so.
I know Tony was when he was out in LA.
National show.
And you and I were like doing updates and all kinds of anything they needed us to do. Behind the scenes, trying to get on the air. We got on the air at night and kind of worked out. Well, you were doing the morning producing, right?
I was working for free a lot.
Well, yeah, I started that way too.
We both did.
Yeah.
My first day at the time it was 950. It was Sports Talk
950. Yeah.
Was the original when it flipped. It was Oldies 950. It flipped to Sports Talk 950. I believe it was October of 2005. Harry?
October 3rd, 2005.
There you go. You were one of the original voices on.
Yeah.
Were you the first voice on the station?
I was the first local voice on that day at 6 a.m. Cracked the mic for my first sports update, which back then what we did was we'd record them. And you try to get everything into this like 2-minute window with your sound bites and whatnot and everything you had to say, and you had to squeeze it in and get it in time, like 15 minutes early, so it would actually
or it wouldn't download.
Or it wouldn't download, correct. And then you'd get nothing but dead air, and then the bosses would call and you'd get fired. So basically my first update was recorded, but I had done it like 15 minutes earlier, and it aired at 6 a.m. October 3rd, 2005.
I remember it. My first day, I believe, was in November of 2005 as an intern.
Not long after. I remember that. Yep.
And that Mike McMonagle, who was in charge of the interns and promotions for the station, didn't come in that day. He was sick or something. So my first day, I spent an hour waiting out in the lobby because the front desk girl didn't think, like, she's just like, yeah, he's not in yet. And I'm like, all right, well, this is like weird. And then finally, I think you came out, or they called back there and you came out, and you're like, well, I don't know what the hell to do with you. So I just sat down and I made like a promo on the spot or something like that, because I had known, I knew how to use digital audio software being at Temple. And I remember the first thing you said was, you're already more qualified than Joe DeCamera for this job.
That's exactly right. I do remember saying that. And I'll tell you, you said you didn't know, I didn't know what to do with you. I didn't know what to do with myself still at that point, because I had totally lied about the ability that I had as far as using all this software. I had no freaking clue how to use any of it. So I'm learning it on the fly.
A lot of us were.
Yes.
That's why it was 950, Sports Talk 950, and no one listened to the station.
Correct.
We needed it. It was like it was an internship for everybody for the first. So from there, Harry, so you were doing morning sports updates, and it was the Fox Sports Radio National Morning Show. I think it was Steve Zabin.
It was Zabe. Yeah, it was. Yeah. He and I have become really good friends in the last 5 to 7 years. But back then, I was a real big fan of his. Being, you and I were big fans of radio in general and sports radio. We listened to stuff all over the country, and he was one of the guys that I kind of gravitated to. And lo and behold, we have him on in the morning. I'm sure the local audience didn't really appreciate it because it was national, but I was a big fan of the way he did radio. And since then, we've become some pretty good friends. Played a lot of golf together.
And he did years in Washington, and then he's up in Green Bay. He's up in Wisconsin now. He's in Milwaukee now. For a station up there doing mornings. Yeah. So from there, we just kind of like I actually my first paid shift at 950 was doing that same update in the morning that you did. You had graduated. You were hosting at night, I believe.
Yes, I graduated to hosting with Jamie Yannicone.
Right, exactly. And then Rob Ellis came in shortly after that, and that was Rob's first. Rob Ellis, who has had a long career in sports media, that was his first show hosting. So it was you and Harry and Jamie Yannicone, and then from there we kind of both worked our ways up and everything like that, leading us both to unemployment. We're both unemployed radio hosts.
Hey, you're not in radio until you've been fired or quit. That's like, that's really it. I mean, you're not in show business until you've been let go of something.
And I was recently terminated nationally by CBS Sports Radio and Odyssey for comments that I made. But
now, did you know that was coming? Did you have an idea?
I knew when I said it wasn't going to probably go over all that well.
Was that on the Crossing broadcast?
Yes, and Kevin Kincaid's actually listening right now because he's commenting. Yes. I would say I knew what I was doing because I did know what I was doing. I just didn't care. And then when I got the call, I was like, like when I got the call that said, they're probably not going to let you do that show anymore. And I'm like, I understand.
Yeah.
Like I was just kind of talking and like, it's not like I was ripping the company. I was just explaining why they don't want to pay people anymore.
Right.
Anyway, so I want to find Rob Quinn's comment here. Always thought you two would have been an awesome duo on the air. I agree. And it's actually something like for the first time I said this to my wife this morning. I'm like, you know what? Is my radio career over? Like, am I going to be back on terrestrial radio? I just quit WIP, so it's not going to be there.
Right.
But like, is the Fanatic going to have any interest, any real interest in me when I'm able to work again and there's a non-compete? Like I always dreamed about doing this show that was a hybrid of sports, kind of like what you and Tony did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a hybrid of sports and I don't want to say guy talk because that sounds stupid, but just like kind of everything, right? Like I'm not doing, hey, the Eagles suck, and you say, no, the Eagles are great, and we give the phone number, and we're taking phone calls for 4 hours.
Right. Put up a poll question.
Right. I always had a dream about doing, like, that's the kind of show that I want to do before I'm done doing radio. And I always envision you Jason Martinez as well. He's a guy that could easily do both. You guys do a podcast now together called Geez.
Correct.
Which you can find it wherever you get your podcasts, Walgreens, Dwayne Reedy.
Where do people get their podcasts? Because that's what I always say too. Yeah, download it wherever you get your podcast. That's what everybody says. But where do they get it? Because I don't go and get it.
I go to Apple.
It's somewhere, but I never go get it.
Right. Well, I listen more to terrestrial radio on demand than I do podcasts.
Right.
There's a show in Boston that I like to listen to, a morning sports show in Boston that I like to listen to. I do that on demand. I listen to some true crime podcasts and things like that. I don't listen to a ton of the podcasts. I don't listen to Joe Rogan or the very popular.
Yeah, I don't even know where to get Joe Rogan. Is he Spotify?
Spotify.
They're the ones who paid him a boatload of money, right?
Yeah, I like I said, I'm ill-equipped to be in the podcasting space right now. Harry, I can't even center my camera on the screen here. So
yeah.
For people that want me to be but I am working on it. I'm working on it. I'll get there.
Right.
Just got to give me some time. But anyway,
I mean, man, you've only been unemployed for less than a month.
But it goes by fast.
Yeah, it does. Doesn't it? Like that's one thing that I've really found is that now that I'm not doing, 5 days a week on a shift where I got to be up at a certain time and in there, do the, prep, do the show, the post show, and then whatever else afterwards. And I get home, like I have the whole day to myself to sort of parcel it out how I want to do things. And I stay very busy for a guy who's essentially retired. But isn't it wild how fast the day goes, even when you're quote unquote not working?
So much faster.
Yeah.
It's already 1 o'clock. The kids are already napping. Once I'm done doing this, the baby wakes up from a nap. I go to school to pick up the kids.
Yeah.
By the time we get home, I'm making dinner.
Right.
And then it's bath, and then it's bed, and then the day's over. I don't know if I like it or I don't like it.
What did I do
these
today?
weeks weren't this fast when I was driving to 2400 Market every day, Harry.
Right.
Long weeks, man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
That's
great. All right, so that's how you got so damn old, was you stopped working the radio shift.
Yeah.
And how long has it been since you've been at the Fanatic?
2018, like the October of 2018. I think it was October 1st was the day that the Come to Jesus meeting. We'd had a couple meetings in the weeks prior, me and the bosses and the program director, because they wanted to move me. Well, they had moved me. I was going to be out of the middays because Anthony had to go there, and they were reconfiguring the morning show, and I was going to be a part of that because they wanted me to be a part of that. And I was okay with that, but not for the money that they were offering. And so we were negotiating back and forth. And the night before, I sat down with my wife and I said, what if they don't go for it? Like, what if they don't do what I want them to do or get closer to what I want them to do? She's like, do whatever you want, quit, whatever, just, it's okay. So I went in there and I held the line, and that was the end. And I just remember taking off my key card and just leaving it on the desk and saying, it's nice knowing you. Appreciate it. See you. And then
is that why I can't get them to hire you back at the Fanatic?
Oh, you've tried?
Well, I mean, you would be one of the people that I would try to, if they said to me, hey, we want you to do a show. Who you want to do the show with?
Well, I think I'm still on good terms with Mr. Bell, and
all right, good.
And Scott Masteller has taken over there now. I know of him from a past life, and I've actually spoken with him back in December. So I think I'm still okay. Yeah, that's one thing about me, John, and you know this, and you're pretty much the same way. I don't burn bridges. Like, we work with some people in this business that they burn the boats, man. Like that's to use
I may have just burned a bridge with that company called Odyssey, Harry.
I didn't want to pick at a fresh scab, you know what I'm saying? But I don't burn bridges. Like I've worked with so many. I've had the blessing of working with some of the greatest people, no lie, in this business, and you know them all too, and you've worked with some of them. I mean, starting with Jody Mack, Tony Bruno, John DeBella, Mike Missinelli, Harry Donahue. I mean, you name it, from people
Jamie
Yannicone, and all the other guys at the Fanatic. But I've been really blessed, and I swear that I could pick up a phone and call any one of them, and they'd pick up the phone and say, hey, how can I help you out? So I've managed to not screw that up.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I felt the same way till recently as far as the bridge burning.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's
All right,
hard
well,
in this business to be that way because I think a lot. I don't have enough of an ego as some of these
that's
guys.
what it is with
You
me
get
too.
the ego going, and then all of a sudden you're like, no, f you, next thing you know, that guy hates your guts, and you hate his guts.
Well, Harry, you were definitely the king of, you know what? I don't give a fuck. And
Right.
it's honestly, it's the same. It's the same thing with me. Like you literally, how many people in radio would say, you know what? No, I'm out. I'm good. Go ahead. I'm not interested. This is
Yeah.
what I want. If you're not going to give me this, then I'm out. You did that.
Yeah.
I did the same thing recently
Right.
to where like it, and it was partly because I didn't want to do it anymore. And I wanted to be wowed by the money to justify staying. But
Right.
how many people in my situation would have said, no, I'm actually going to leave afternoon drive on WIP for nothing,
Yeah.
for who knows. And that's really what I did. You did the same thing. And
Yeah,
look,
but
years later.
your situation is way different than mine. I mean, with all due respect,
Well,
if I had some young kids, I don't know that I would have been as brazen as you. You, to me, are on the Mount Rushmore of balls.
of idiots?
No, balls.
Because I would say idiots. But an 8-year-old, first of all, I'm diabetic, which is
Right.
very expensive to be type 1 diabetic. I have an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 2-year-old, a wife that doesn't work. And I was like, yeah,
Right.
I'll find something on the other side. I'm good.
It's that family money that we'll fall back on, right?
Yeah, it's the savings that I don't have.
The old money.
Yeah, like 401k. Like,
Right.
yeah, I'll just early deposit 401k. It's all good. We'll be fine, honey. It's like, don't worry about going back to work. No, and then I tell her, like, you're gonna have to get a job. And then I'm like, you know what? But once if I get a job, then what's gonna happen? So I don't even know if she's gonna go back. But here's how you can support my family, Harry.
Okay.
You can go to shopeverylittledetail.com for custom made shirts of all types.
Shop
right, this is-
everylittledetail.com.
It's her business. She started just making shirts like for the family and for us.
Uh-huh.
And then as she started doing it, people were like, hey, make this for me, make that for me. And then before you knew it, she's just doing it on Facebook. And it got to a point where it's like she needed a website and she needed an LLC and everything else.
Oh, okay.
So we did that at the beginning of the year. So shopeverylittledetail.com. And there's a ton of stuff on there. She'll make custom made shirts. And it's the other great thing is she's working 24/7, pretty much doing it. And we only have one laptop now because my laptop just fried. So at 12:45 today, we're going on at 1. I'm like, honey, I need the laptop now. I got to get the link for Harry. I got to get on the air. I'm so unprepared to do anything right now. I haven't been on the air, but you're the right guy to be on with, to be unprepared.
So yeah, because I didn't prepare either. Now, shopeverylittledetail.com. Is it any type of shirt? Is it t-shirts only? What, like
t-shirts, sweatshirts,
hoodies. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, really everything.
Awesome.
Sports apparel, contraband, things. Yeah, a little bit of everything's there. So
right.
Yeah, she does a great job with it. So shopeverylittledetail.com for everything, and you can follow it on Instagram as well.
Okay, you got the Instagram, and what is the Instagram? Is it Shop Every Little Detail?
You see, I know how to use this now. It's scrolling on the bottom of the screen.
Right.
Now.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's
custom
slick.
made shirts of all kind. There you go. And of course, follow Harry at Harry Mays TU. And it's Harry, not with MAYS, like Billy Mays. It's Harry Mays,
right,
with an ES.
Y-E-S,
and the T's for Temple University.
Correct. I used to have 975 there, but I figured I'd have to take that off.
Yeah, when I left the Fanatic and they told me that's our Twitter account now because it has 975 and I had to fight them over it, I decided I wasn't going to put anything on it anymore.
Right.
So that's why I went with media.
John,
even though I'm far from media.
Right.
You know what I mean? Would you consider it like when you look at me? Do I look like media?
Well, no. I mean, I thought you meant the town of media. You're kind of far from there too. Yeah.
I do not live in media. That's what maybe some people think. No, I'm not far from you, Harry.
Right.
I know you're no longer in Phoenixville, but you're not too far away from me.
No, I used to be out in your hood. I liked it out there, but it's just so far.
Yeah.
It's far.
Yeah, commuting every day to 2400 Market.
Oh, I don't know how you did that.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I hated it.
I went down there for one day to do Nick Cale's show over the holidays, and I dreaded it, that drive in there.
Yeah, how was that? So Harry, when obviously when you go to around Christmas time and most of the regular hosts take off, you have fill-in hosts. Tony Bruno and Harry Mays rekindled their partnership at 12:10 a.m.
Yeah.
which must have been something. How did that go?
It was. Well, Kevin Stocker, the terrific program director down there at 1210, who has brought Nick in to do the morning show, and they've been very successful over the last, year and a half? I guess it's almost been a year and a half. Had
Nick's done a great job.
Suggested that, Nick, I guess, suggested that I come on once a week to talk a little Eagles, like the day after an Eagles game, give him 10 minutes of sports. So he started doing that. And I guess he liked the way that sounded. And he was always a fan of Bruno and me from back in the day, and thought like, hey, why don't we put together at least those two guys for one day while you're off, and we'll cobble the rest of the week together with other fill-in hosts. But Bruno was up in the area visiting one of his sons in Delaware or Maryland. I forget where he lives. But so he was going to be nearby, and he could do one day in studio. So we worked it out where we did a Wednesday, the 27th, 2 days after Christmas. It was a blast.
Yeah, you enjoyed it?
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
Did Jose from Norristown call in?
No, he did not.
Really?
No. He might have been listening. I don't know, but he did not call in. I don't even know if we took any calls that day.
No?
Yeah, because I don't even know the phone number.
It's 855 something. I don't know the phone number either. It's definitely 855 something. But
that's a nice building, though. That building is beautiful.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, just what you need.
Yeah.
State-of-the-art studios. I don't want to get myself in trouble.
Yeah, you might as well. You said it.
All right. Well, we'll circle back to some of the nonsense before we get out of here. But but last night, let me say this about Joel Embiid, Harry. And I know it's difficult for a lot of people because the 76ers haven't went past the second round of the playoffs. So and we know what happens when it comes to the playoffs for the Sixers. And I'm hoping this year's going to be different.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can remember a better player in this city than Joel Embiid. Just straight up talent.
Yeah.
7'2", however tall he is, however big he is.
Yeah. 285 pounds.
Jesus Christ. And he shoots like a guard. He can handle the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, what was his line last night? 70 points
70
and 18
points.
rebounds.
Yep. 70 points.
One turnover.
And I think he only hit like 1 3. It wasn't like he was putting
1 for
up
2
threes.
from 3.
Because I know Karl Anthony Towns had 62 later on in the evening, and he made 10 threes out of 15 attempts. But that was totally the opposite with Embiid. It was the mid-range game and at the rim and the free throw line is how he did it. And yeah, he's spectacular. He really is. He's a unicorn. He's a freak. Whatever you want to describe. I think he's just a joy to watch. The only thing is you have to sort of caveat it by, is he going to be healthy come April and May in order to drive this team past the second round and get him into a finals? And thus far, we all know the answer to that. And hopefully this year it'll be different. I really love the team. I love Maxey. He's just a guy who's another joy to watch. And one thing that they have done, and I know we put all the emphasis on the playoffs, and that's what we should do, but they've made the NBA regular season, which is typically a grind, a lot of fun. Yeah. Like a Wednesday night in January when it's 20 degrees outside, you've at least got 2.5 hours of something that's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, so like the year the Eagles win, the Eagles get to the NFC Championship game in 2001. They lose in 2002. Everything that happened after that was hurry up and get to the NFC Championship game because you got to get to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Those seasons weren't fun. 2003 wasn't fun and ended up losing again. 2004 was fun because of T.O., but then he gets hurt.
Right.
But I guess my point is that I am enjoying, even though we know that what happens come April, and we know that's you're staring down the barrel of that. But I also am enjoying these regular season games. Like you had said, Harry, I'm enjoying the hell out of Maxey, even when Embiid's not playing. Nick Nurse, having Nick Nurse there, and it's the one reason I have for hope is that Nick Nurse, because for whatever reason, Embiid turns into a different player. Something weird happens. He comes up small in the playoffs. He acts weird after the games when they lose. But Nick Nurse, this is where you need the mental side of a coach to really get through to the team. And it just seems like when the going gets tough to the 76ers, regardless of who's been on this team, when the going gets tough, they fold.
Yeah.
And they did it again last year. And it feels like this is the year. And Harry, I'll even say this. An Eastern Conference Finals would feel good at this point.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, forget about an NBA Finals. Just get past the second round, and I think that I'd be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's a lot of good teams. I mean, the West is a bunch of good teams. Like
It's
you
a
got
good league.
Oklahoma City and Minnesota, these franchises that were nowhere just a few years ago did an amazing job. You know, like we went through this whole process thing, which seemed to take like 10 years, and it's still going on. And then you watch what Oklahoma City did. They rebooted themselves in half the time. They got a really fun team of young players. Minnesota, Karl Anthony Towns, and a couple of, I guess they got Gobert is in there, and then they got a bunch of younger players over the last few years in the draft. They're a nice squad to watch too. It is a fun league. It really is. And but I just can't get overly excited. Like people want, on Twitter, oh man, it would be great. Yeah, it's great. And the MVP is great too. Okay. But there's bigger things. There's bigger things that we should be concerned about rather than Joel Embiid getting back-to-back MVPs. Like, let's win a championship. Let's at least get to a championship.
So you can't fully enjoy it.
Not fully, but I mean, typically I'm not even hardly watching in the middle of January. Now I'm watching, and at least I'm enjoying some of it. Well, same with the Flyers.
Yeah, well, how about the Flyers? Harry?
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen they're doing well. I haven't seen a lot of any of the games. I know Jason Martinez, I was hoping he would jump on with us today, but he's at practice.
Right.
Doing interviews or something like that.
Yeah.
Is that who he's talking to, Tortorella?
Yeah. I think he talks with him like once a week. And I do that, the OGs thing with him. So we do a hockey minute typically on there.
I would love to get back into hockey. Maybe that's what I need to do with my time.
There you go.
Is become a hockey insider.
Yeah.
With Jason Martinez.
They got the Bruins coming in this Saturday.
Oh, man.
In the afternoon. I think it's a noon tilt.
Oh, is it one of those Saturday games?
A little matinee action. Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. Well, there you go. It's Harry, I think ultimately with the 76ers, once you get to the playoffs, everybody knows what we're waiting for.
Yeah.
Right. Like the MVP. I'm with you. Last year, like I was happy he got the MVP. I was rooting for him to get the MVP, but I don't care about the MVP.
No.
Right. Like MVPs are for, for teams that usually win, right? Or get to finals or things like that. And he won the MVP last year. So now that's over with. I don't there. It would be one of the biggest disappointments if Joel Embiid and the 76ers didn't win a championship
during his lifetime here. Yeah.
And it feels like you're 2 or 3 years away from him saying, you know what, it's time to go. And maybe it's a year where everything falls apart and he plays poorly or it just kind of blows up in his face. Because I feel like that once it gets messy, he's going to say I'm out.
Yeah.
Because he's ready, because he's done it before where he said, like, just be careful what you wish for. And like, more or less like, hey, listen, like I can just leave. He didn't say that, but that's the kind of feeling you get is that when he decides he's going, he's gone.
Right.
And there's nothing you can do about it. So you want to keep him in the good graces with the city. But like at some point you just have to say this ain't working. But you're never going to get equal value. And for all the trade Joel Embiid stuff, and I get it. I feel
the frustration after last year. Yeah.
I feel the same way, but your only way that you're going to win anything is with Joel Embiid and putting the right talent and the right coach around him. And I feel like Nick Nurse may be that guy.
And I like Oubre. The addition of Oubre has been nice too.
Oh man, and what a story! Him bouncing back from getting hit by a car. I mean, such a tragedy.
Allegedly.
Well, I can tell you this. That I received a very informed source early on in the process that said, yeah, that story's totally BS.
Uh-huh.
And then probably 36 hours later, it came out that they were investigating it being total BS.
Yeah, and they couldn't find any video of it on any of the
But anyway, hey, like what's he like $1.5 million for a year? I mean, talk about a great value for a player.
Totally. He fits this squad perfectly and can just give you instant offense.
So is this year the year? Does it feel different to you this year? And it's January, so I think
it's a little early yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a little early. And we're not even at the All-Star break yet. But
would you make a trade? The All-Star break the trade deadline's not far away. Would you consider making a trade? You have the Tobias Harris's contract, which is expiring, so you have the money you can move. That's valuable to a team that's looking to clear cap space.
Mm-hmm.
You have draft picks you've acquired now, so you can include some of them. Would you be interested in moving for like Levine is the one name that's going to be mentioned a lot, but
Klay Thompson too, I heard.
Yeah, I don't want him.
You know,
and frankly, I don't want Zach LaVine.
Yeah, I don't really want either of those guys, to be honest. But those are the names that I saw.
But isn't it working right now? Like,
I think,
isn't the last thing you need another big name to come in that could screw up the chemistry on this team because he wants the ball, needs the ball, is not getting enough shots, taking the air out of the locker room. I feel like, I mean, I wouldn't mind a couple of additions
on the bench, maybe.
Some veteran help.
Yeah,
maybe a three-point shooter, but I don't need a major name.
And I like that part of the trade too, where they got some veteran, tough guy like in Morris, and that Batum, can hit some threes and stuff. Like I thought, was it value for value? No, but I thought those guys plus the addition of Oubre have really complemented the core of the roster really well.
Yeah, I think Morey's done a good job heading into the season. So, how should the Sixers look into Kyle Lowry?
No.
610-632-0975.
No, I love Kyle Lowry, but no.
He was cooked 3 years ago.
Yeah, but man, he was fun.
Ago,
he was fun to watch though too, especially with Toronto when he killed us, and then Villanova. I remember him at Villanova because he was supposed to go to Temple. That was one of those ones added to the list of recruits that you thought you were going to get and you didn't.
Yep. Yeah, Rick Brunson's kid, Jalen.
Oh yeah,
Brunson.
Jalen. Yeah, added. I mean, there's a list a mile long.
Will misses you, Harry. A lot of people checking in. Big Harry Mays fans.
Where's Will? Oh, there he is. Well, thank you, Will.
Checking in.
I miss you too, man.
And a 1 p.m. puck drop, Harry, on Saturday. There you go.
Oh, it's 1 p.m. Okay. And is this true? Kyle Lowry was traded to Charlotte today?
Is that right?
Wow.
Wow. All right. Well, there you go. All right. Mays and Marks. How about that?
Wow.
Alliteration would be great.
Yeah. If
you threw Martinez in there, you'd have 3 M's.
I could hear Brian Seltzer doing a promo for that with the alliteration.
My buddy Brian Seltzer. Brian Seltzer works at Odyssey now. He's a big podcaster for KYW.
That's what I saw. And like he's doing it's not sports. He does human interest stories and all kinds of stuff.
He does Jeff McClain. Jeff McClain has a podcast Uncovering the Birds that he's the executive producer of, and he does a lot of work with that. But Brian Seltzer does a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So I miss seeing him down there.
Me too, man.
At Odyssey every day.
But a lot of fun. He was great, real talented kid too. I call everybody a kid because everybody's younger than me.
Yeah, but he was one of the first people at 950 as well. He was still in college. I think he was just wrapping up at Penn.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So yeah, we got old, Harry.
We did. Yeah.
If I'm 47, I don't even want to think how old you are.
I'm 58.
Oh man.
I'll be proud to tell anybody. I'm 58. Yeah.
Now, is Joe Eunice? Have you talked to Joe Eunice recently, Harry Mays?
The last time I talked to him
was producer, and he was also a handicapper.
Yeah, it was when Bruno and I were doing the Sirius XM show. That's the last contact I had with him. So that's 2020. So it's been a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We had a lot of fun.
A lot of those old names from the old 97.5 days. All right, so big Eagles news today, Harry Mays, and I mean, I wasn't sure they were gonna fire Brian Johnson. No surprise with Sean Desai or what's his nuts from the Patriots.
Matt Patricia, yeah.
Matt Patricia. No surprise there. But Brian Johnson fired by the Eagles today. Some of the early reports coming out, I know Jeremy Fowler had said on 97.5 this morning that a lot of people on the staff not happy that Brian Johnson was let go. And I know. So here's the problem with what happened this year. Is it the head coach?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the offensive coordinator? Is it the offense? Is it the quarterback? Is it problems inside the locker room? Is it a combination of all of the above, which I think it is?
Yeah.
Right. Like, so what do you do? And the easiest thing to do is to replace the play caller and the offensive coordinator.
Right.
And that's what they did today. So no real surprise. I saw some outrage out there about this isn't right. Like, what do you mean it's not right? The offense sucked at the end of the year.
Yeah.
The play calling sucked.
Heads had to roll. I mean, and I thought initially that maybe Sirianni's would be one of them because of what else was out there in this year with available names. I mean, Jim Harbaugh. You think that, Jim Harbaugh coming in here and running your whole operation, it wouldn't work with Howie Roseman, I don't think. And that's probably why it was never even considered. But man, as a fan, I would have been totally into that. Bill Belichick, what this team really, their defense was awful the entire season. Him to come in here with the right offensive coordinator for 2 years and run your defense, basically be the head coach and have a great offensive coordinator, that would have interested me as a fan. Mike Vrabel is a very solid guy that can sort of be the CEO kind of guy of a franchise with the right offensive coordinator would have interested me. I don't know. I'm just the way this whole thing collapsed under Sirianni's watch. And I know it's not all him, but he was the head coach, and it's essentially his offense. The offense was abysmal. They were so predictable. The quarterback, I don't think, is healthy. I think he could end up getting something done surgical wise with his knee. I don't have any insight into that, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was some small procedure, because he just didn't look like he wanted to move. He didn't look like the same guy that he did a year ago. His legs are a big part of the package, and that was not available for most of the season, especially after the Jet game. So, I mean, there was a lot of things that went wrong. And obviously Jeffrey Lurie wants to give Nick another chance. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in that meeting, when they finally did get together, to see what was said and how he defended himself, because I always find that kind of stuff interesting. But, who are they bringing in now? I mean, that's the question.
So some candidates that I've seen mentioned, Jim Bob Cooter.
Oh, yeah. He was actually with Detroit a few years ago and actually did pretty well, I think, as an offensive coordinator.
He was with Detroit, and then he was a consultant here in Philadelphia for the Eagles for a season.
Oh, okay.
And then he was in Indianapolis with Shane Steichen last year. So he was their offensive coordinator. I'm assuming that Steichen still did the play calling. Part of the problem is you have an offensive head coach, and this is his offense, but he doesn't call the plays.
Yeah.
He doesn't call the plays because he sucks so bad at calling the plays
right.
the 4 or 5 games that he did. Right?
Yeah.
So what do? This is his offense. Yep. What is his offense? And now you're bringing in, so now you have to bring in an offensive coordinator to run his offense.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell does that mean?
It's a weird situation.
It is. It's like he's a defensive head coach, but he's not. He's an offensive head coach that can't be involved in calling plays. And to your point with Sirianni, Harry, and I feel like that if I was Jeffrey Lurie, I would have done the same thing, because they just were in the Super Bowl and they were that close to winning the Super Bowl. And then they start the season 10-1. And I think because you think about when Doug got fired, he won a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
He went to the divisional round the following year. He made the playoffs with Carson Wentz, and then Carson Wentz got injured in the playoff game, but they made the playoffs. And then then the season fell apart.
Right.
It felt like he was so cooked. Doug Peterson was so cooked at the situation here in Philly. He didn't even fight for his job.
Right.
He was just more or less, because they asked him, like, all right, well, how are you going to fix this? And his plan was keep Press Taylor and have Matt Burke as his defensive coordinator. Sirianni, according to what a lot's being reported out there, he's fighting for his job, and he's got ideas and when coordinators he wants to bring in, etc. So I think it's hard for Jeffrey Lurie just to move on, but that doesn't mean that I think this is going to work.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it feels like they're giving him another chance because he went to the Super Bowl last year and they started the season 10-1. Does anybody really believe that they're going to get back to the Super Bowl next year? This roster went from looking one of the best rosters in the league to being awful.
Yeah, I know.
This defensive roster is awful.
The back seven on the defensive side is brutal. And, Hassan Reddick, how many sacks did he have over the final 7-8 weeks of the season? I think I can count them on one hand.
More than Josh Sweat did.
Sure. Sweat, he disappeared too. I mean,
and that's the other thing with Hassan. Even though he slowed down a little bit there at the end, he's going to want a new contract. He was pissed last year when they wouldn't give him. He wanted new money. He's going to want more money this year. You can't lose him.
Yeah, I know.
He's your best defensive player. So now you have Slay, who's still under contract. He's a knucklehead,
right? And he's been banged up. He's
been banged up.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the two guys that I like the most in that back seven are Blankenship, who's an undrafted rookie,
right?
And poor Sidney Brown tore his ACL there late in the season, and he looked like he
looked like a promising
real
player. Yeah, absolutely. But I did see on Twitter today, and I actually retweeted it with a quote tweet. Ryan Rothstein, our old buddy, actually tweeted this. For what it's worth, apparently the Eagles stashed Pro Bowl cornerback Isaiah Rodgers, most recently with the Colts, and he was a guy who got dinged for
suspended
gambling.
for a year for gambling.
Gambling. So he's an Eagle. Now that could end up once this suspension is lifted. That could help solve at least maybe one of your positions in the backfield. He was a pretty good player.
Yeah, he'll be in the mix.
Yeah,
right. Like,
in the
doesn't
mix.
it feel like this team almost is in? You're not in rebuild mode, but are you really going out this season to try to put yourself in a position to win a Super Bowl? Is this a Super Bowl team
For the next season? No,
heading into the next
not
season,
right now. No. I mean, they need another edge rusher, right? Brandon Graham's going to be in the final year of his deal. He'll retire an Eagle. I don't know what's going on with Fletcher Cox. He's got another year left on his contract, but I've been hearing some strange things that he might not be back for, and it might be on him. It might be his choice. So they pride themselves, and they do it the right way ever since Andy Reid was here, on the trenches. That's the way the team was constructed, and they put a lot of their money into there. Well, the right side of that, Kelsey's going to retire, so you're going to need to move Juergens probably to center. You'll need a guard. They can find a guard, but the defense is all but needs to be rebuilt. All but maybe 2 or 3 players.
Yeah, and the offense. What is this quarterback?
Right. Well, I still am going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he's not
you have to.
Near 100% healthy, and maybe hopefully he gets that fixed in the offseason.
But it's concerning that the league made an adjustment.
Oh, they did,
as you would expect. The Eagles coaching staff, like when you say the benefit of the doubt, I'm going to blame them for it. They just started blitzing him all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the Eagles did like that Buccaneers game, that playoff game. It felt like the Bucs had 20 players on the field on defense.
I know.
That's how hard it was for them to do anything.
Well, especially with no A.J. Brown. I mean, think about
A.J. Brown.
The dynamic that player brought when healthy, along with Devontae Smith, and a running game and a quarterback that could run. I mean, that element disappeared. And then you have A.J. Brown injured. Where are you going with the football? They ran the ball right down Tampa Bay's throat in week 3. We didn't see any of that in the playoff game.
Nope.
Yeah.
None of it. No, they went from being the best running team in football to not even trying to run anymore.
I know. Very frustrating.
It's one of the oddest seasons, or one of the oddest things that happened in Philly sports that I can remember in a really long time. It's almost unprecedented.
We all knew, and you guys were saying it, you and I know, and Jason and I each week would say, hey, the Eagles, they found a way to win another game. They still haven't played their best football, but, and they're 10-1, you are what your record says you are, but they obviously weren't, a 10-1 football team. They did lose to the Jets. And then the tough part of the schedule comes in. They found ways to beat Kansas City and Buffalo, but the Niners came in here and took their soul. And ever since
they never recovered.
They never recovered. Yeah.
They didn't.
I think the most frustrating one for me was the second half of the Arizona game. I'm at the Hooters in King of Prussia with a couple of buddies watching that game, and I couldn't believe what I was watching. Connor, and every time they'd run the football, they'd get 7-8 yards. It was just emasculating. They put up what they scored 21, 28 points in that second half, and it was all running.
I almost want to. They had, I think in the second half, they had 4 drives of 70+ yards.
Yeah, the Cardinals.
Yes, who came into the game averaging 18 points a game.
Right. It was
18 points a game, and they had 4 drives of 70 yards or more.
Unbelievable. Really.
And see, like at that point, and that's why you can fire Sean Desai and everybody else. You have a major personnel issue on defense, right? Like you could talk about the offense and maybe it was play calling and things like that. I buy more into that. I buy less into it was a coaching problem on defense. This is personnel.
Yeah.
And when they can't get to the quarterback, it felt like their younger guys kind of ran out of gas down the stretch as well in the defensive line. The linebackers are non-existent.
Yeah. That's an organization
thing. He's amazed Hooters is still open, Harry.
Oh, no. It was rocking, man. Every table was filled. Are you kidding me?
That's a good Hooters.
It is.
Down there.
Quality Hooters.
I've been there semi-recently. At Hooters. Yeah. I brought my kids. Just me and the kids there. No. I got takeout wings from – they have good wings. Hooters.
I like them naked. Not the Hooters girls. I'm talking about the wings.
Oh, the wings.
Yeah, the wings without the breading on them.
I do not like the breading on them.
Yeah.
So. Our old buddy Mike Keller. Mike Keller was an early member of the 950 staff
and a Berks County Reading radio star, by the way.
Yeah, he has since retired from radio up in Reading.
But I last saw Keller. last season, I believe, during the hockey season for the Reading Royals, where
He's still doing that.
he does like in-game promotion stuff. He's fantastic on the mic.
So you went to a Reading Royals
Yes, I did.
hockey game?
I did. You know, I'm from Berks County and I have family up there. So the family up in the Berks area wanted to go to the game, and I said I'd go.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you went, and all of a sudden you're like, holy smokes, that's Mike Keller down there.
There he is. I know that guy.
Formerly of 950 AM.
That's correct.
Back in the day. Well, there you go.
Those were fun days.
Naked wings are great. Yeah. Have you been to the original Hooters in Clearwater, Harry?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, a couple times going down there.
It's like a tiki
spring
hut.
Training. Yeah, it's not. I don't know what I was expecting. It's
not really impressive.
It's not.
No.
Reminds you a lot of Tampa, though, isn't it?
Yes.
It's very Tampa.
Yes, I love Tampa. I lived there for a year.
You did?
Yeah, and it's only because I got divorced did it only last a year. Or who knows? I may still be down there.
So you went down there with your wife, your ex-wife?
My then wife, yes.
How long were you two married for?
3.5 years, I want to say. Yeah, 3.5.
And what happened with the marriage? Just
I don't know how to put this. It was explosive from the start. It was sort of like, gasoline and a match, and it eventually ran out of gasoline.
So let me guess, you guys had a lot of chemistry in the bedroom. But normally when that happens, you're both crazy otherwise with each other.
That may or may not be true. I don't know if I can deny or confirm that at this point. It's a long time ago.
Well, all right. Well, there you go. What's the when you look back at the days of 97.5 and 950 AM? I remember on 950, we were just saying like, well, when's it going to flip to like Spanish sports or to back to oldies or something like that?
Yeah, we didn't know how long it was lasting.
We'd make it. Yeah,
right.
We'd make it.
Right.
I used to do updates, Harry, if you remember. So do you remember the original lineup for 950 AM?
With the local morning show?
When it first started. So we talked about it before. It was Fox Sports Radio.
Yeah, then it was Bruno and
Tony Bruno on the West Coast from 9 a.m. to noon.
Then Jim Rome.
Jim Rome show.
3.
Yep.
And then Jody Mack from 3 to 7. And then the original lineup was before me and Yannicone. I forget his name, but he's
Matt Fine.
Yes, Matt Fine. He teaches at Temple in the broadcast journalism school. Correct. And he had a partner, and I forget his name. I think he was a Villanova guy.
Jim Bachman.
Bachman, yes. Yeah. What was the show called? Was it the Sports Fanatics?
I don't remember that. Okay. No, you guys made it the 700 level Sports Fanatics.
Okay.
Then it got cut down to the Fanatics.
Correct. Yeah. And Jody Mack used to refer to us as the Knuckleheads.
Yeah, the Knuckleheads coming up at 7 o'clock.
When he promotes the show at the very end, he calls us Knuckleheads.
And the whole thing with the station was it was great sports debate without the hate. They were trying to play off of Howard Eskin calling everybody dopes.
Yes.
And it was like, oh, we'll be nice to you.
Right.
If you listen to us. We're not going to say that. Actually, if you remember the one piece of audio was like, you're an idiot, you're a dope, you're a moron. And if you listen to that, something like that.
Yeah. that was the first, like the Bob DeBlois years, right?
It was Bob DeBlois.
Yeah.
Yes. He was the GM
of
the station. And then Harry was working nights. And then Mike Miss came in April of 2008.
And that really gave us legitimacy.
And most people hadn't heard of the station until then.
Right.
And Mike came in. I started working with him. Were you doing middays then? Were you working with Jody?
Yeah.
At that point. So then you were working middays with Jody.
Yep.
Because at the time, I remember driving. We were at resorts in Atlantic City.
Mm-hmm.
Mike and I are on it from resorts in Atlantic City, and we were still on at 3 o'clock. And the station's lineup. Do you remember the lead-in into Mike's show who was on before us?
Well, no, wait a second. Jody Mack and I went.
You guys were on 9 to 1. It was before I think you went 12 to 3.
Was it 9 to 1?
You guys were on 9 to 1.
Oh,
it was
Mike Tirico. Mike Tirico.
Scott Van Pelt.
Yeah.
Which is the worst radio show ever. And neither one of them were ever there.
Right.
So we had this ESPN radio show. And Harry, you know how important a lead-in is for your show. Because if you have a bad lead-in, no one has you on before. They're having to remember, all right, Mike's on at 3:00, Harry's on at this time or whatever. So we had a national ESPN radio show on from 1 to 3. And the worst show you could possibly have, Tirico and Van Pelt.
It was very slow. Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah. And then so I remember driving down the resorts and Anthony and Glenn were on at the time. I think they were on 10 to 3 at WIP and thinking, how the hell are we beating Howard right now with what we have on our station and what they have on right now? They're actually local with a great show on. But we survived it. We survived it. And 2009 went FM, I think. Do you remember the midday FM shows that they had when we went to the FM?
Well, me and Baldinger did a couple of years back to back, where I was with Baldy from 10 to noon, and then Bruno noon to 2. John and Sean was after that, right? You came after when we
were on 12 to 2. And then you and Tony were doing 10 to 2. Vi and Gonzo. So one of the original shows, I remember it, was Schwartzman and Stephen A. Smith. When they first flipped to FM, they brought in Stephen A. for a week. They brought in Ricky Bowe.
I think they were trying him out. I think he was kind of using us also as a way to get some on-air reps to show somebody else eventually, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So Stephen A. was on
with Schwartz.
With Schwartzman, who I talked to Schwartzman not long ago.
You did?
You talked to Dan Schwartzman?
Not in a while.
I was going to bring him on as a surprise for you, but then I just ran out of time.
Oh.
Yeah, he called me after I left WIP, and he's like,
Moxie.
He goes, this has got to be about money. You don't just quit. This has got to be about money. And I'm like, well, yeah, some of it was about money, Schwartzman. He's like, I knew it.
You genius.
I know. Yeah, they talked to him for like a half hour. Dan's doing great.
I love that guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
My guy Justin from Hawaii, who he's a big radio star out in Hawaii.
Oh wow.
On KCCN FM 100, and he's a huge Eagles fan.
Is that on Oahu, or which island is that?
Yeah, it's on Oahu. He's in
Honolulu.
Yeah, so he has retired from the radio business. Now he's an MC and he does events out there. So if you get married in Hawaii, it's a good chance that he's going to be MCing your wedding.
Oh, nice. I was just watching the golf in Hawaii. They start the season in Hawaii for the first 2 weeks, and I was enjoying the scenery. Man, you lived out there for how many years?
2.
Wow.
20 years ago, I lived out there right now, 20 years ago.
Jeez.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Well, Harry, how can people find you? Tell us about your 2 podcasts that you're involved in and everything else.
Yeah, I do the weekly OGs with Jason, and that's on Twitter. Yeah, we run it through both of our own Twitter pages at Harry Mays TU. I think he's at Jason Mert on Twitter. And then I do a weekly golf podcast for going on 3 years now, weekly. It's about everything golf. It's called Swing It and Ding It. And that's all on Twitter, Instagram. Get it wherever you get your podcasts. And what else am I doing? I'm actually starting to sell some apparel too, John. Yes. In fact, this past week, I'm going to be going to work with Boston Scott Golf, which is a local company out your way. They're actually in Pottstown, Limerick area. And they're a local apparel company. And they make the best golf polo I've ever worn, the best golf slacks I've ever had. And I'm really passionate about the stuff that they make. And we're trying to get them, in every pro shop in the area. So I'll be doing some work for them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And possibly back at the Fanatic.
Who knows? I'm here.
I mean, it'd be great. Yeah, I mean, you're a free agent.
I am.
Agency doesn't start until April, but I mean, if there's radio stations out there.
Yeah. I'm a free agent. I'm willing to talk.
You willing to talk?
Sure.
Now, do you have a representative that you deal with, or
no? I
that
don't.
Deals with you? No.
Well, our old boss, back when I was still very impressionable, which I figure that was a long time ago. But then I got really hardened to the business within about 6 months after this. Advised me not to get one, and now I know why he said that. But I wished I would have. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, now I don't think it's worth it unless you're really making the big bucks.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's worth it. But anymore, I'm not even really sure. Yeah, they told you back then because they wanted to give you what they wanted to give you.
Right.
And they didn't want a professional to be like, no, F you, you're not getting that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, Harry, it's been fun, man.
A lot of fun.
We can do it again.
Let's do it again.
All right, subscribe. There's past episodes. Did you subscribe?
Yeah, and let's get that shirt company out there again. Your wife's shirt company.
Well, Harry, you should represent me.
Shop
Thank you very much.
everylittledetail.com.
There you go.
There you go.
Everylittledetail.com. Harry, by the way, was voted most likely to be a porn star by the Fanatic staff.
Is that right?
Maybe. I'm just kind of making that up. Are you still trying to get involved in porn?
No. No, I don't think the market for a 58-year-old white guy is really hot right now.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
You'd never know. Harry, by the way, I got to end with this. The best Harry Mays story, which probably no one really knows because it happened so long ago.
Uh-oh.
It was the 2007 Phillies end of the season.
Oh.
So what was the circumstances? Was that when they were down 7 with 17 to play?
Yes, and the Mets were in first place in August, and the Phillies went on an unbelievably magical run, and it culminated, I believe, with an extra innings win where Shane Victorino, I think, scored the winning run, and we were at the station because we were getting ready to do the night show, and it was like a late afternoon finish, and the bet was with Yannicone that if they ended up winning the division, that I would streak from our remote location down at Tony Luke's. I would get stripped down and streak during the show. And I'll never forget because we were getting ready to do that show and I was at the station getting ready. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to do this.
Yeah.
And about, I don't know, a lot of the cops would listen to the show driving around at night. Because we were on till like 11, I think at that time. It was like 7 to 11. So
yeah, because Mike worked until 7.
Right. And then like 11:15 is when I did it, like right at the end of the show. And a couple of cop cars, started coming by because they had heard that I was going to do it. So they were cool. They knew what was going to happen. And a couple of cops were eating at the Tony Luke's and I'm taking my clothes off. Did you have a broom? Well, yeah, because they swept the Mets. They won all 4 of those games. It was unbelievable. So I used a broom and I think I had a batting helmet on and that was it. And I just took off across.
And it wasn't like, all right, Harry's coming up next to streak. You kind of just in segment got up and started running. Yeah. I was down there. I was down there at Tony Luke's. I'll never forget it. If I was looking, all of a sudden you were taking off.
Yeah.
With the broom.
Yeah.
Because management said you can't go naked because whatever. You have to have at least something covering your junk.
Right. And I forget, but ESPN, one of the local baseball writers, I forget his name now.
Jerry Krasnick.
Well, exactly.
Who has since passed away recently.
Oh, he has. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to hear that. He was a nice man. Actually wrote a piece about it on ESPN.com for the next day. So, Matt was all about getting publicity as long as it didn't get him in trouble. Right. So, which is great.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's my Nick Foles. That's your Nick Foles. Like for me, the Nick Foles tattoo, it was halftime of the Super Bowl. And I said, holy shit, I might have to actually get this tattoo on my back. And I got the tattoo on my back. Subscribe at John Marks Media. Follow me on Twitter. Follow Harry Mays TU. And sorry about Temple sucking and everything these days, Harry.
It's awful. That's we could do a whole other podcast on that. Yeah.
The Temple Sucks podcast.
Oh, incredible.
Hosted by Harry Mays.
Oh.
Harry, it's been fun, man.
Yeah, man. A lot of fun. Let's do it again.
All right. Appreciate it, everybody. Again, subscribe at John Marks Media. See ya.